I'm an insecure little boy inside.
Why? Why
Because
are
I
you an insecure little
because
boy?
because
Why?
because because I feel like I'm not allowed to be a man in that world. The white man dominate his environment. I'm not allowed to dominate my environment, and I'm upset about that. A man is supposed to dominate his environment, but we get treated like little boys in that environment, and I hate it. That's why I left. That's why I'm nowhere near. I want this shit to be over with. I want to rule the earth. I want to walk around and be the man. I want to dominate everything. I want my woman to look at me like a king and submit to me and respect me highly. But I don't never want to be dominated by no woman. And they give y'all power so that y'all don't feel like y'all need us. So we feel emasculated and I feel hurt inside because I can't be a man. That's why.
So you guys just heard what Nature Boy said in that clip. And I haven't heard all of Nature Boy's material that he puts online. But I do know from what I've heard, I've never heard him be that honest about himself. And I don't know if he even knew this, but he's actually describing a very common mentality among the black male collective. So I'm actually glad that he said it and it came out of the horse's mouth. What he said is something I've said online, and you just can't get a lot of black men to admit that. And for those of you who don't know, Nature Boy is the leader or the quote unquote chief of a polygamous cult called Carbonation. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of him. He's been on the news a few times. He's always, into some kind of trouble. And he also refers to himself as God or the Messiah. Every time I look at a video about him, it's always, new women around him. So he's always recruiting new wives. Women follow him. They go over there with him wherever he's at. And he's pretty bold. He has been online and he has admitted proudly to physically abusing his quote unquote wives, or so-called disciplining them. One woman, you guys sent me the link, she's an ex-member of Carbonation, I guess. She's one of his ex-wives. And she actually released a tell-all book about her experience while she was there. And in the book, she said that as he was beating one of his wives, he said he was beating the white man out of her. So this man has issues. He clearly has a very deep inferiority complex when it comes to white men. And what's happening here is because he feels powerless as a black man, he has formed a cult, or a tribe as he calls it, to control and exert authority over other people, both men and women. But the women are suffering the most. And in my opinion, he's just out of control. He has had his wives arrested and deported in various places for stupid things, like violating quarantine laws in Hawaii. And at one point he was living illegally in Costa Rica, so they kicked him out of there. I mean, this is just some of the dustiest mess I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not, using Nature Boy as an example to make it seem like all black men are like this. But even though most black men aren't this extreme, there are some similarities when they do and say certain things to attempt to dominate black women. This is why they're online begging black women for submission. They need someone or something to dominate and feel they have control over, to make them feel powerful. Why? Because they're upset about being conquered by white men, like Nature Boy said in the clip. Nature Boy is an extreme version of these hoteps that I talk about on my channel. They're anti-white supremacy, they're anti the system, they're anti-capitalism. They believe that black people should live according to nature and be polygamous and get out of quote unquote Babylon, aka the United States. And they think that we should just all go live off the grid in the tropics somewhere because the evil white man is holding us back. More specifically, holding the black man back. And here's what I think about it. I mean, I don't think anything is wrong per se with the beliefs on their own. I actually understand any black person that feels they need to free themselves from the corruption and the discrimination and the racism. I totally get it. I'm not against that if that's what you choose to do. I 100% agree with, eating clean and taking care of your body. But the problem with Nature Boy, and I would say black men in general, there are different levels of this mentality, and a lot of black men that we hear crying online about black women disrespecting them and not submitting to them, and how we're, in bed with the white man, and how we've joined forces with the white man to keep them down, and how matriarchy is the problem in the black community. Many of black men won't admit this, But their real anger is with white men, but they're taking it out on black women because you're easier to blame. And this is what I've been saying this whole time. It's much too difficult and terrifying for them to challenge white men, so they attack black women instead. Once again, Nature Boy is an extreme example, but the degree of what he said here varies from black man to black man. To truly understand why so many black men resent black women and they're online dragging you for filth is to understand what Nature Boy said in this clip. There are many black men, and you hear them online all the time, that blame their position in society on the women who birthed them, their black mothers. They blame black women for them being conquered by white men. Like he said, they are insecure little boys inside. Many of them are. And their current condition in the system of white supremacy makes them feel emasculated and makes them feel like little boys. And they do want to dominate their environment. And so when you see all this anger and resentment, that is where it's coming from, ladies. And some of you feminists especially are going to say, oh, the problem is gender norms and men have been socialized to feel like they have to dominate their environment. And that's the problem. And that's why we need to tear down the system of patriarchy and all this stuff. And to a certain extent, I believe there is some truth that men have been socialized to be that way. Science says so. But science also says that the masculine characteristics men have is biological as well. Do they abuse their power and use it against women? And is that wrong? Absolutely. But there are certain inherent male characteristics that exist because of what they are here to produce in society as men. No amount of feminism, ladies, can change that or change how women respond to traditionally masculine, dominant, powerful men. Ladies, most of us like that. And it goes beyond being socialized to like it as women as well. Some of that is biological for us too. So black men are never going to feel 100% adequate if they continue to be emasculated. And if they don't get to the root of why they feel emasculated and keep blaming it on you as black women, you're not going to be able to fix this. Black women cannot fix this, not on their own. Okay. And I'm saying this because if you listen to 99% of black male content online and read their comments under these videos, when they talk about their failures, all roads lead back to black women. There is absolutely nothing a black man does wrong that will not be traced back to a black woman, either his mama, black feminists, or black women in general. If you point out their failures or their flaws in any area, the blame will be redirected back to you as a black woman. But what Nature Boy said in this clip is who they're really mad at. And this is not something you will ever get them to admit or hold themselves accountable for. And I will say, black women, we also take issue with accountability, in which at this point, I'm honestly looking at a lot of black women sideways who choose to go over there with Nature Boy after knowing his history. Because the information about him is all over the internet. It's not hard to find. Yet he keeps recruiting new women. Every time I see a video pop up about him, it's new women with him. And I know why. It's because they're usually young black women. They're broken, they're misguided, and they're running from something. I mean, these women are leaving their kids and everything. So he takes advantage of whatever weaknesses they have or whatever trauma they've experienced, and he recruits them and he manipulates them and he pretty much gets them to worship him and his cult. But I do know that the woman who just wrote the book about him is older. So you would think that she would know better. I'm pretty sure she saw the information about him before she went over there. And maybe she just went over there for the experience and she planned on coming back to write a book. I don't know. But based on some of what I saw, like he had her under this spell. It's like a thing with black women where we have to experience something ourselves when it comes to black men for us to believe it. I've been there before, and I just wish that we could get out of that. We need to stop believing that we can change these bummy black men. And this is why channels like mine, we tell you that dusty black men, they will always have Dustianas and black women who are willing to sleep with them, willing to have their babies, fight for them, protect them even when they know they're wrong. And even when they see them, physically see them abusing other black women. There are black women out there who will follow black men over a cliff, literally. Or get a man like Nature Boy because they think they could change him. This man should not have young women giving him new children, but he does. And I really felt compelled to do this video in part because Nature Boy and his wives are just the extreme versions of what we see in the black community. A lot of black women are the lesser extreme versions of his wives. Y'all may not join a cult or, practice polygamy or anything like that, but you're still sharing men. You're still sharing these baby daddies. You're still giving your womb to some of the worst black men out there and defending everything that they do. So with that being the case, nobody can deny that pound for pound, there are far more black women who are harder on themselves and harder on other black women than black men are with themselves and other black men. There are far more black women who are willing to say, ladies, we can do better. We need to get our act together. We need to stop doing this and stop doing that. How many black women are online preaching to other black women about what they need to do? They're not blaming white supremacy. They're not saying, oh, if our daddies were there, then we could do better. Or if white men would stop oppressing us, we could do better. Of course, some of the Hotep women are saying that. But there are a pretty decent size amount of black women who are, talking about self-improvement for other black women without bringing up other people. A lot of us do know how to take full accountability for our actions. You will see black women admit to their flaws on behalf of black men usually, but I'm saying we will admit to our flaws more than black men will. There are shows right here on YouTube where black women call in and do that, or they comment under the videos and they hold black women accountable. There are entire platforms made by black women that are dedicated to calling out other black women for our behavior. Where is the opposite of that? I haven't seen one channel made by a black man dedicated only to calling out other black men, but you can find that for black women. So yes, do black women have a problem with accountability and admitting when we're wrong? Yes. Does our self-accountability always go as far as it should, and is it always genuine? No. Do we hold ourselves accountable to appeal to black men? Yes. But that's the point. I hear way more black women willing to improve for black men and owning their dysfunction than I hear coming from the other side. And listen, if we can't hold black men accountable and literally all of their failures are going to trace back to what their mommies did or what a black woman did first, then black men are not leaders and they need to stop calling themselves that. They're not patriarchs at that point. Because what that says to me is that you can't think for yourself, you can't do for yourself, and all of your decisions are based on what women do first. That's not patriarchy. That is actually matriarchy, black men. And when it gets to the point to where black men are saying everything they do wrong is because of black women, y'all aren't giving me anything to work with when it comes to refuting the black feminists who say black women should take the lead. Black men are basically saying the same thing. They want the leadership title and leadership benefits, patriarch benefits, without the responsibility and the accountability. But it does not work that way. They want to control their communities like other races of men do. They want to control society like white men, like Nature Boy said. Instead of white male patriarchy, they want a strong black male patriarchy. They want to be the leaders. But since they can't defeat white men, since they're not up for that task, they're blaming you for their shortcomings, black women. And I will say again, because I know how to hold myself as a black woman and other black women accountable. Black mothers and black women are not perfect. And I have seen them do things to emasculate black men or make black men resentful of black women. Hell, y'all do things to me and other black women that make me not like y'all. But I'm telling you what Nature Boy said, that is where the resentment and animosity starts with black men. It doesn't start with us black women. It starts with him being conquered by the white man. This is also why he takes pride in dealing with white women. He feels he's taking something away from the men who took his manhood and destroyed his community. Even if black women made them feel like the kings of the universe, which a lot of us do, let's just be honest. That's why they're so arrogant. That's why they're so entitled. But even if all of us did that, they still would not feel good enough because they have not conquered white men. You'll never get them to admit to this. Any mistakes they make, they'll find a way to trace it back to black women. But this right here is the unfiltered truth and the heart of their issue. So I had to share it with my audience. This is the core of their resentment for you. And the problem is that they could never figure out how to overthrow the system or the white man. So you become their punching bag as their counterpart, black women. And literally, in this case, Nature Boy is making black women his punching bag. And what hoteps like Nature Boy don't realize is that you can't completely live off the grid. It's impossible. You can't challenge another system without having a system. If you want to grow your platform in peace and spread your message to other people, you have to still be a law-abiding person wherever you go. You can't just break the rules. If they truly want to compete, they're going to have to join forces with other black men, put all of their resources together, and create a system of their own. That's the only way it's going to work. And that's why I said in my video about Ice Cube, at least he presented a plan. And like I said, there were a lot of black women in support of him. Despite all the feminists in the media smacking him down, there were still a lot of black women who supported that plan. And even though I don't condone Ice Cube and all of, the poison he put out in the community, I am glad that him and his team at least took the initiative like men should be doing. And like I said, no coalition of black women stopped them from getting it done and sitting down with both political parties to discuss it. So all of this talk about how black women, are just, it's an army of black women stopping them from building and stopping them from mobilizing. That's not true. And by the way, I do not endorse either political party for those who are wondering, because I know that's going to be in the comment section. So there's that. But black men will use this, whole narrative that, oh, black women don't like to cooperate. And I'm not saying that a lot of us don't. It's true, right? But they'll use that as a smokescreen for their lack of desire and unwillingness to build or be with the black woman in general. It's a very, very convenient excuse, ladies. It's like the perfect storm to get out of their manhood responsibilities. Or they'll pretend like traditional or patriarchal black men are just this huge majority in the black community, as opposed to being the minority. And they'll pretend that they don't have enough cooperative, attractive women to pair up with those men, when the truth is that traditional black people are a minority on both sides, both male and female. And there are enough attractive, feminine, traditional black women to pair up with high-value traditional black men. It's just that a lot of times those men aren't attracted to those women. And yes, sometimes it's because of weight and attitude. But I happen to think that the primary reason is most of these men would just rather have a light, bright, or white woman instead. But instead of being honest about that, they're going to pretend that it's the weight and it's the weave and it's the lack of femininity. And they're going to pretend that those are the primary reasons. I'm sorry, black men, but I just don't believe that. Them telling you to be more cooperative and feminine, they're busy assignments, you guys. To me, there's a lot of smoke screens being put up in every direction. And because building and organizing is too difficult of a task for black men, because it's not something that they want to do, they're going to sit around and blame you for your feminism. They're going to blame it on your hair weave. They're going to blame it on your weight and your lack of femininity and your attitude, instead of looking in the mirror, which honestly is why I had to stop being pro-black man, because to me, that is just so cowardly. It's so dishonest and it's so disingenuous. And this is why I believe in cultivating your femininity first and foremost for yourself, and then to attract all races of high value men, not just black men. Because the main reason for them not mobilizing and building is because they don't want to do what it takes. And the reason they don't have what it takes is not because their mommies didn't teach them how to be men. That's not a woman's job. Women cannot do that. So black men need to be honest with themselves about how they were able to be conquered by white men and be on the losing side of the war. They need to look in the mirror. They need to work that out amongst themselves. If they are truly leaders and truly patriarchs, action does not start with black women. And if you as a man are saying it does, then you are saying that you agree with matriarchy and black women should be the leaders. That is what you're saying. And if that is what you're saying, then you need to leave black feminists alone when they say black women should be in charge, because that's what you're saying too, that all of your failures lead back to us. Well, that means you're not capable of leading and you don't want to lead. If you want patriarchal benefits, you're going to have to take the responsibility as well. They're a package deal. And listen, I know some of you black men and you pro-black men, black women are really going to be upset about what I'm saying here. But when you break it all down, black men are supporting matriarchy in the black community. And anybody who is not telling you some form of everything I'm saying in this video, but claims to be for black women, is actually doing a disservice to black women. This is information every black woman needs to know so that they understand what they're dealing with when it comes to many, if not most, black men. Until black men get honest with themselves, black women should be pro-self, not pro-black male, not pro-black community. Until black men stop blaming black women for everything and admit honestly to their failures and step up, you need to refrain from coddling them, refrain from man-stroking them, from protesting for them, and you need to burn the cake, because anything less is a disservice to you as a black woman and your well-being and your image. You taking the blame for everything wrong in the black community and trying to live up to their standards isn't going to spring them into action, because black men don't want it bad enough for themselves. Like other races of men, they want it for themselves first, not just for their women and their community. They want it for them. And if black men are unwilling to face the truth about what's going to fix them being emasculated, then there's nothing you can do about that. It starts with them if they are capable of being the patriarchs that they say they are. So that is all I have to say about this. Let me know what you think down in the comment section, and I'll catch up with you in the next video.